The scream that tore from Sophia Martinez's throat shattered the pristine silence of the Arizona desert as she fell to her knees, clutching a small, weathered teddy bear partially buried in the sand. Her daughter's favorite toy that had vanished along with 6-year-old Lily 14 years ago. How could it be here, hundreds of miles from their old home in San Diego, preserved in the desert sand like a grotesque time capsule of her greatest heartbreak? What secrets did this barren landscape hold about her daughter's disappearance? What cruel twist of fate had led Sophia to this remote location on what was supposed to be a healing retreat, only to rip open wounds that had never truly healed? If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Lost and the Found channel, where stories of mysterious disappearances and miraculous reunions remind us how fragile our connections truly are. Stay with me through this entire heartbreaking journey to understand how a mother's love can transcend time, distance, and even the most devastating betrayals. Sophia clutched the small bear to her chest, its once vibrant fur now faded and rough from exposure to the elements. She tried to steady her breathing as her mind raced through fragmented memories of that terrible day, Lily playing in their front yard, the phone ringing inside, and those few fateful minutes of distraction that had cost her everything. The police investigation, the nationwide search, the years of dead ends and false hopes, all leading nowhere until this moment, in the middle of nowhere. Her trembling fingers traced the barely visible stitching on the bear's worn paw, the clumsy L that she had sewn herself when Lily had insisted her bear needed to be personalized. The desert wind whipped around her, sending tendrils of sand dancing across the barren landscape, but Sophia remained motionless, locked in a moment that bridged 14 years of grief and unanswered questions. "Sophia, are you okay?" The voice of her retreat guide, James, barely registered as he approached from behind. "We should head back soon, the others are waiting at the van." "It's hers," Sophia whispered, not turning around. "It's Lily's bear." "My daughter's." James knelt beside her, confusion evident in his weathered face. "Your daughter? I don't understand." "She disappeared 14 years ago. She was 6. Sophia's voice was distant, mechanical. This was her favorite toy. "She took it everywhere." James gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sophia, we're 30 miles from the nearest town. How could your daughter's toy be out here in the desert?" Sophia finally looked up, her eyes reflecting a determination that had long been dormant. "That's exactly what I need to find out." Chapter 1, Buried Memories. The San Diego Police Department hadn't changed much in 14 years. The same faded blue walls, the same humming fluorescent lights, and even some of the same weary faces. Detective Marcus Rivera was one of those faces, though the intervening years had deepened the lines around his eyes and sprinkled silver throughout his once jet-black hair. When Sophia called to tell him about finding Lily's teddy bear in the Arizona desert, she had expected skepticism, maybe even concern about her mental health. Instead, she found herself sitting across from him, less than 24 hours later, the bear now sealed in an evidence bag between them. "I never forgot about Lily's case," Rivera said, studying the bear through the clear plastic. "Some cases stay with you, no matter how many others come across your desk." Sophia nodded, her throat tight. Over the years, their relationship had evolved from detective and victim's mother to something resembling friendship, forged in the crucible of shared failure, his failure to solve the case, her failure to protect her child. "We can test for DNA," Rivera continued. "Though exposure to the elements makes it unlikely we'll find anything useful after all this time. But the location, that's significant. We never had any leads pointing to Arizona." "I need to know how it got there," Sophia said. "If Lily's bear was in that desert, then at some point, she might have been too." Rivera's expression softened. "Sophia, I know what you're thinking, but I have to be straight with you. Finding this bear doesn't necessarily mean we'll find Lily. And even if she was there at some point, I know what the statistics say about children missing this long." Sophia interrupted, her voice stronger than she felt. "But until I have proof otherwise, my daughter is alive." Rivera didn't argue. In their years of sporadic contact, he had learned when to push and when to simply listen. "Tell me about this retreat. How did you end up in that specific location?" "It was a healing retreat for people dealing with loss," Sophia explained. 6 days in the desert, connecting with nature and ourselves. James Holloway runs it. He's been doing these retreats for about 12 years. Rivera made a note. "And the exact location where you found the bear." James called it Reflection Point. "It's on private property, about 30 miles outside Juniper Springs, Arizona. The participants hiked there on the second to last day to spend time alone and reflect. Who owns the property? I'm not sure. James has some arrangement with the owner. Sophia paused. Do you think that's important? Rivera tapped his pen against his notepad. Everything's important, until we know it isn't. I'll make some calls, see what I can find out about the property ownership. As Rivera continued asking questions and taking notes, Sophia's mind drifted to the life she had built in the aftermath of Lily's disappearance. Her marriage to David had crumbled under the weight of their grief, each blaming themselves and eventually each other. Her career as an elementary school teacher had become impossible, every child's face a reminder of what she had lost. The past decade had been a process of rebuilding from the rubble, a modest apartment, a new career as a remote graphic designer that limited her interaction with children, and carefully maintained emotional walls that kept potential relationships at a safe distance. She had created a life that functioned, but never truly lived. Finding Lily's bear had changed everything. For years, Sophia had forced herself to accept that she might never know what happened to her daughter. Now, holding tangible evidence that connected Lily to a specific place, the ember of hope she had carefully maintained flared dangerously. There's something else, Rivera said, interrupting her thoughts. It might be nothing, but there was another child who went missing around the same time as Lily, a 5-year-old boy named Tyler Chen, from Sacramento. He was never found either. Sophia frowned. You never mentioned him before. There was no apparent connection between the cases at the time. Different cities, different circumstances. But his favorite toy was also never recovered, a stuffed dinosaur his parents said he carried everywhere. You think there could be a link? Rivera shrugged. Like I said, it might be nothing. But I'm going to reach out to the Sacramento PD, see if they'd be willing to share their case files. And I think we should look into this James Holloway and his retreat operation. As Sophia left the police station, the California sun felt different on her skin, hotter, more intense. For 14 years, she had been existing in a gray world of muted emotions and lowered expectations. Now, colors seemed sharper, sounds clearer. The possibility of answers, even terrible ones, had awakened something in her that had long been dormant. Back in her apartment, Sophia opened her laptop and began her own investigation. The retreat center's website was professional but basic, featuring serene desert landscapes and testimonials from people who had found peace through James's guidance. His biography mentioned a personal tragedy that had led him to create the retreat, though it was vague on details. Sophia searched for news articles about missing children in Arizona over the past 2 decades, looking for any patterns or connections. Hours passed as she fell down rabbit holes of information, her graphic design work forgotten. Her phone rang shortly after midnight. Rivera. Sorry for the late call, he said, his voice tight with an emotion Sophia couldn't identify. I found something you need to know about. What is it? The property where you found the bear. It's owned by a corporation called Desert Solace LLC. The LLC was established 12 years ago by James Holloway. Sophia felt a chill despite the warm night. 12 years ago, that's 2 years after Lily disappeared, Rivera finished. And there's more. Before he started the retreat center, Holloway worked as a long-haul trucker. His routes regularly took him through California, including San Diego and Sacramento. The implication hung in the air between them, too terrible to voice immediately. He would have had the means to transport children across state lines, Rivera finally said. And the desert property provides isolation. Sophia's mind reeled with the possibilities. What do we do now? I've already contacted the FBI. This crosses state lines, and there may be multiple victims. They're sending agents from both the San Diego and Phoenix offices. In the meantime, don't contact Holloway, or anyone associated with the retreat. We don't want to tip him off. After hanging up, Sophia sat motionless in her darkened apartment, the blue glow of her laptop screen illuminating her face. On the screen was a photo from the retreat center's website, James Holloway standing before a group of participants, his arms outstretched in welcome, the desert stretching endlessly behind him. She had spent a week in his presence, had trusted him to guide her through her grief, never suspecting he might be connected to its cause. The thought made her physically ill. Sleep was impossible that night. As dawn broke over San Diego, Sophia made a decision that would alter the course of her life once again. She wouldn't wait for the FBI investigation to unfold at its bureaucratic pace. She had already lost 14 years. She wouldn't lose another day. She would return to Arizona, to the desert that had preserved her daughter's teddy bear for all these years. And this time, she would uncover the truth, whatever it might be. Chapter 2. Dust and Deception. The small rental car struggled against the rough terrain of the unmarked desert road. Sophia had checked into a motel in Juniper Springs the night before, explaining to the disinterested clerk that she was a writer researching the desert landscape for a novel. Now, with the morning sun already blazing overhead, she was retracing the path the retreat group had taken to Reflection Point. Detective Rivera had been furious when she called to tell him her plan. "You're interfering with an active investigation," he had argued. "The FBI is handling this now. If Holloway is involved in Lily's disappearance, he's dangerous." "I'm just going to observe," Sophia had lied. "I won't approach him or the retreat center. I need to see the area again to understand." Rivera had threatened to have her detained, but ultimately relented, extracting a promise that she would maintain daily contact and not do anything reckless. What constituted reckless remained conveniently undefined. As Sophia navigated the empty landscape, memories of Lily flooded her consciousness. Her daughter had been fascinated by bugs, collecting beetles and caterpillars in a special observation container David had bought her. She had been learning to read, sounding out words with determination, her small finger tracing under each letter. She had hated having her hair brushed, but loved having it braided, sitting patiently as Sophia wove the dark strands into intricate patterns. These memories had once been too painful to revisit, but now Sophia welcomed them, drawing strength from the vibrant child who had filled her life with joy for 6 short years. The car jolted over a particularly rough patch, bringing Sophia back to the present. According to her GPS, she was about 5 miles from Reflection Point. The retreat group had hiked this distance, but the terrain was navigable by vehicle if one knew the way, and James certainly did. Sophia slowed as she approached a bend in the crude road, noticing tire tracks that veered off to the right. On impulse, she followed them, driving another quarter-mile before stopping abruptly. Nestled in a natural depression in the landscape, hidden from the main path, was a small weathered cabin. It wasn't visible from the hiking trail the retreat had used, and James had never mentioned any structures in the area. The building appeared weathered but not abandoned, the windows were intact, and a satellite dish was mounted on the roof. Sophia's heart hammered in her chest. The FBI would want to know about this immediately, but something held her back from making the call. What if this was nothing related to Lily? What if it was simply James's private residence on the property, a place to retreat between guiding others? And what if it wasn't? She parked the car behind a large rock formation, obscuring it from view of the cabin, and approached on foot. The desert was eerily silent, except for the occasional skittering of a lizard or the distant cry of a hawk. The windows of the cabin were covered from the inside with what appeared to be heavy blankets, making it impossible to see within. Sophia circled the structure, looking for clues. At the back, partially hidden by a scrubby bush, she found a cellar door secured with a padlock. Beside it was a small rock garden, or what appeared to be one at first glance. On closer inspection, Sophia realized the rocks were arranged in a distinct pattern, a circle with 5 stones inside and 1 larger stone outside. Something about the arrangement tugged at her memory. With trembling hands, she took out her phone and pulled up an old photo of Lily. In it, her daughter was drawing on the sidewalk with chalk, creating a similar pattern, a circle with smaller shapes inside and 1 outside. "It's my family," Lily had explained when Sophia asked about the drawing. "The little circles are you, Daddy, me, baby brother, and Mr. Bear. The one outside is my angel watching over us." Sophia had been confused. "Baby brother? You don't have a brother, sweetie." Lily had simply shrugged and continued drawing. "Not yet, but I will. Tyler told me." Sophia had dismissed it as childhood imagination. They weren't planning on having another child, and Lily didn't know any Tylers. Or so Sophia had thought. Now, staring at the rock arrangement, the name Tyler echoed in her mind. Tyler Chen, the 5-year-old boy from Sacramento, who had gone missing around the same time as Lily. Could Lily have known him? Had they been together after their abductions? The sound of an approaching vehicle snapped Sophia back to the present. She quickly retreated to her hiding spot behind the rock formation, her heart pounding as a battered pickup truck came into view, and parked beside the cabin. James Holloway stepped out, looking different from the serene guide she had known during the retreat. His posture was tense, his movements agitated as he unlocked the cabin door and disappeared inside. Sophia weighed her options. The sensible choice would be to call Rivera, report what she had found, and wait for the authorities. But James might destroy evidence in the meantime, or worse, relocate if he suspected he was under investigation. Making a decision that was definitely reckless, by any definition, Sophia crept toward the cabin, her phone recording video in her pocket. She would get close enough to peer through any gaps in the window coverings, document what she could, and retreat before James noticed her presence. As she approached, a sound stopped her cold music, faint but unmistakable, coming from beyond the cellar doors. Not just any music, but a specific melody that sent shivers down her spine. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, the lullaby she had sung to Lily every night before bed. Sophia changed course, moving toward the cellar doors instead. The padlock was in place, but the doors themselves were old and warped, leaving a small gap between them. She knelt and tried to peer inside, but it was too dark to see anything. Pressing her ear to the gap, she could hear the music more clearly now, along with what sounded like humming. So focused was she on the sounds from the cellar, that Sophia didn't hear the cabin door open, didn't sense James's presence, until his shadow fell across her. "I had a feeling you might come back," he said, his voice eerily calm. "You always did ask more questions than the others." Sophia sprang to her feet, backing away. "The police know I'm here," she lied. "They're on their way now." James smiled, a gesture that never reached his eyes. "No, they don't. Your car is hidden, your phone has no signal out here, and you told Detective Rivera you were just going to observe, not trespass on private property." Fear coursed through Sophia. How did he know about her conversations with Rivera? "You've been watching me," she realized aloud. "You knew who I was when I signed up for your retreat." "Of course I did." Sophia Martinez, mother of Lily Martinez, missing since May 2011. "I make it my business to know everyone who comes to find healing in the desert." He took a step toward her. "The question is, what am I going to do with you now?" Sophia glanced toward her hiding place, calculating her chances of reaching the car before James could catch her. "Slim to none." "What did you do to my daughter?" she demanded, stalling for time, hoping her phone was still recording in her pocket. "Why did you take her?" For a moment, James looked genuinely confused. "Take her? I never took Lily. Her bear was out here, in your desert." Tyler Chen disappeared around the same time. "You were a truck driver who traveled through both San Diego and Sacramento. The FBI is connecting the dots as we speak." James's expression shifted, something like understanding dawning in his eyes. "You think I'm a kidnapper? A child killer?" He laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet desert. "You couldn't be more wrong, Sophia." "Then explain the bear. Explain why you're out here in a hidden cabin with that lullaby playing." James sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I can explain everything, but you won't believe me. No one ever does. That's why I created this place, to help people like you come to terms with loss, to find peace when answers aren't possible." "Try me," Sophia challenged, her fear giving way to anger. "Explain why my daughter's favorite toy was buried in your desert." James studied her for a long moment, then nodded toward the cabin. "Come inside, I'll show you." Every instinct told Sophia to run, but the promise of answers about Lily held her in place. "The cellar first," she countered. "I want to see what's down there." James hesitated, then nodded. "Fair enough." He removed a key from his pocket, and unlocked the padlock. As the cellar doors swung open, Sophia prepared herself for the worst. A prison remains, evidence of unimaginable crimes. Instead, she found herself looking at a small cozy room lined with shelves. On those shelves were toys, dozens of them, each carefully displayed with a small placard. In the center of the room, a music box played the lullaby she had heard. James descended the wooden steps, motioning for Sophia to follow. In a daze, she did, her eyes scanning the shelves. Stuffed animals, action figures, dolls, each one lovingly preserved. "What is this place?" she whispered. "A memorial," James answered softly. "For the children who never came home." He moved to one shelf and gently touched a stuffed dinosaur. Tyler Chen's, found it near a rest stop outside Phoenix. He moved to another shelf. Emma Larson's favorite doll, washed up on a beach in Oregon. Another shelf. Michael Delaney's robot, left behind at a motel in New Mexico. Sophia struggled to comprehend what she was seeing. You collect toys from missing children. Why? How? James turned to face her, his expression somber. Because 14 years ago my daughter Ellie went missing from our backyard in Phoenix. She was 4. The police found nothing, not even her favorite rabbit toy. It was like she vanished into thin air. He gestured around the room. I became obsessed with finding her, quit my job driving trucks, used my savings to buy this land, and started searching the desert, convinced someone had taken her and left her out here. Instead, I found these toys belonging to other missing children, scattered across the landscape like breadcrumbs without a trail. Sophia shook her head, disbelieving. That's impossible. How would all these toys from missing children end up in the Arizona desert? That's what I've been trying to figure out for 12 years, James said. Each time I find one, I research the child it belonged to. I've worked with police departments across the country, but no one has answers. Sometimes I think, he trailed off, looking embarrassed. What? Sometimes I think there's something out here, something beyond our understanding. The desert has always been a place of mysteries. Sophia wanted to dismiss his words as the ramblings of a grief-stricken father, but the evidence was all around her, tangible reminders of children who had vanished without explanation. Where's Lily's bear? She asked. James pointed to an empty space on one of the shelves. It was there. I found it 3 years ago, about a mile from where you rediscovered it. The wind and sand must have shifted it over time. And you didn't think to report it to the authorities? To me? I did report it. I report all of them, but without any other evidence. They're just lost toys in the desert. As for contacting the parents directly, I tried that once, early on. The family accused me of being involved in their child's disappearance, of taunting them with the toy. After that, I let the police handle parent notifications. Sophia tried to process everything he was saying. The rock pattern outside, the circle with the stones, many of the children had similar drawings or arrangements. James interrupted. It's one of the patterns I've been studying. Some parents reported their children making these designs shortly before they disappeared. A chill ran down Sophia's spine as she remembered Lily's chalk drawing, her casual mention of a brother named Tyler. Why the retreat center? She asked. At first it was a cover for my searching. I needed a reason to be out here regularly, without raising suspicion. Then I discovered that helping others process their grief helped me with my own. It became a dual purpose. Sophia's mind raced, trying to find the holes in his story, the signs of deception, but his explanation, as bizarre as it was, connected the dots in a way that made a terrible kind of sense. I need to see your records, she said finally. Documentation of when and where you found each toy, your communications with the police, everything. James nodded. They're in the cabin, but there's something else you should see first. He moved to a small desk in the corner of the cellar and opened a drawer, removing a well-worn journal. Ellie kept a dream journal before she disappeared. She was having nightmares about a desert angel who wanted to show her the way home. I didn't think much of it at the time. He handed the journal to Sophia. After she vanished, I found entries from other parents in online forums about their missing children having similar dreams, angels, guides, finding true home. Lily's bear was the 17th toy I found in 12 years, Sophia, and in every case, the children reported dreams or made drawings before they disappeared. Sophia opened the journal with trembling hands, seeing a child's handwriting and drawings depicting winged figures standing in circles of stones. The similarities to Lily's drawings were undeniable. What are you saying? She whispered. That some entity is taking these children? James spread his hands helplessly. I don't know what I'm saying. I just know there's a pattern, and no one wants to see it, because it doesn't fit into our understanding of the world. The police think I'm a grieving father who's lost his mind. Maybe they're right. Sophia closed the journal, her thoughts in turmoil. I need to call Detective Rivera. He needs to see all of this. James didn't object, simply gestured toward the stairs. We'll need to drive about 3 miles east to get cell reception. As they climbed out of the cellar, the desert air hit Sophia like a physical force, hot and dry and ancient. She looked out across the vast landscape, seeing it differently now, not just as sand and rock, but as a keeper of secrets, A place where children and their treasured possessions had somehow found their way, defying logic and distance. "What happens now?" she asked, as they walked toward James's truck. "Now we try to find the truth," he replied. Together. Chapter 3. Fractured Light. The FBI established a temporary field office in a vacant storefront in Juniper Springs within 48 hours of Sophia's discovery. Special Agent Valerie Chen, no relation to Tyler Chen, she had clarified immediately, headed the investigation, coordinating with law enforcement agencies across multiple states. Sophia sat across from Agent Chen in the makeshift office, recounting her conversation with James, for what felt like the 100th time. Despite her initial skepticism, Rivera had convinced the FBI to take James's collection and research seriously, treating it as a potential breakthrough in dozens of cold cases. "Let me make sure I understand," Agent Chen said, her voice neutral, but her eyes sharp. "Mr. Holloway claims to have found toys belonging to 17 different missing children, all in this same general area of the desert, over the past 12 years. "Yes," Sophia confirmed. "He's documented each discovery, including GPS coordinates, photographs, and his communications with various police departments." "And you believe him?" Sophia hesitated. "I believe he found those toys, including Lily's bear. Whether his explanation makes sense is another question." Agent Chen tapped her pen against her notepad. "We've confirmed that 14 of the 17 toys do indeed match descriptions of items belonging to missing children. The remaining 3 cases are still being verified." "What about the dreams and drawings, the stone circles?" "There are some commonalities in the case files," Agent Chen admitted reluctantly. "Several parents reported changes in their children's behavior before they disappeared. Increased interest in astronomy, mentions of going home, or finding the real home, dreams about guides or angels. But these could be coincidences or confirmation bias." Sophia leaned forward. "And the fact that all these toys ended up in the same remote area of the Arizona desert, is that also coincidence?" Agent Chen sighed. "Miss Martinez, I understand your need for answers, but we deal in evidence and logical explanations. Mr. Holloway's theory about some supernatural desert entity taking these children, he never actually said that," Sophia interrupted. "He said there's a pattern he can't explain. Neither can you, apparently." The agent's professional demeanor cracked slightly, revealing a flash of frustration. "We're exploring all possibilities, including the likelihood that Holloway himself is involved, despite his cooperation. His truck routes as a driver years ago put him in the vicinity of at least 5 of the disappearances. But not all 17, Sophia pointed out, and some of the children went missing while he was documented to be elsewhere. Criminal networks exist, Miss Martinez. One person doesn't have to be responsible for all the abductions." Sophia rubbed her temples, feeling a headache forming. They had been having variations of this same conversation for days, circling around the same points without resolution. "What about the cellar?" she asked. "Have your forensic teams found anything?" "No evidence of children being held there, if that's what you're asking. No DNA besides Holloway's, and traces that match some of the toys. The structure was built 10 years ago, according to county records." Sophia stood needing to move, to think. "So where does that leave us?" "We continue investigating," Agent Chen said simply. "We're expanding our search area, interviewing everyone who's attended Holloway's retreats over the years, and digging deeper into his background. If there's a connection between these cases, we'll find it." Sophia nodded, not entirely convinced. "And James? He's free to go about his business, though we've asked him not to leave the area. He suspended his retreat operations temporarily." After leaving the field office, Sophia drove to the small cafe, where she had arranged to meet James. They had fallen into an uneasy alliance, both desperate for answers about their missing children, both skeptical of the FBI's ability to see beyond conventional explanations. James was already there when she arrived, sitting at a corner table with papers spread before him. He looked up as she approached, offering a tired smile. "Any breakthrough with Agent Chen?" he asked, as she sat down. Sophia shook her head. "They're thorough but narrow-minded. They're still looking at you as a potential suspect." "I expected as much," James said with a shrug. "I've been a suspect in Ellie's disappearance for 14 years. You get used to it." Sophia studied him, still not entirely sure what to make of this man who had become central to her search for Lily. In the days since her confrontation at his cabin, she had verified as much of his story as possible. His daughter Eleanor Ellie Holloway, had indeed disappeared from Phoenix 14 years ago, shortly before Lily vanished from San Diego. His job as a truck driver, his purchase of the desert property, the establishment of the retreat center, all checked out. I found something new, James said, pushing a folder toward her. While the FBI was busy taking apart my cabin, I went through some of the parents' online forum posts again. Look at this. Inside the folder were printouts of messages from various parents of missing children, dating back 20 years. James had highlighted sections describing their children's behavior before disappearing. Emma kept drawing these circles with figures inside. She said it was her real family waiting. Tyler became obsessed with stars. He would stare at the sky for hours and tell us his real home was up there. Michael started sleepwalking. We'd find him outside arranging rocks in circles. Sophia's breath caught as she read a highlighted entry from a parent whose child had disappeared in 1997. The night before Zach vanished, he told me not to worry because the desert angel would take care of him. We live in Maine. He's never even seen a desert. It goes back decades, James said quietly. Children all over the country, all with similar behaviors before they vanished. And 17 of their toys somehow ended up in my stretch of desert. Sophia closed the folder, her mind reeling. What are you suggesting, James? That these children were, what? Abducted by aliens? Spirited away by desert angels? That's insane. Is it any more insane than the alternative? That some vast undetected criminal network has been abducting specific children for decades, all of whom happen to draw the same symbols and talk about the same things, and then deliberately leaving their toys in the same remote area. Put that way, both explanations sounded equally implausible. Sophia sipped her coffee, trying to think rationally. The FBI is expanding their search area, she said finally. Maybe they'll find something we missed. James nodded, though he looked unconvinced. Maybe. But I've been searching that desert for 12 years, Sophia. If there were obvious clues, I'd have found them by now. They spent the next hour reviewing James's research, looking for patterns or connections they might have overlooked. As they were preparing to leave, Sophia's phone rang. Rivera. We found something, he said without preamble. A cave system about 7 miles from Reflection Point. There are markings on the walls, circles with figures inside them, similar to the drawings in Holloway's daughter's journal. Sophia's heart raced. Human markings? Recent ones? That's the thing, they don't appear to be recent. The archaeologists they brought in estimate they could be hundreds of years old, possibly created by indigenous peoples, but the similarity to the children's drawings is striking. Are there any signs of the missing children? Not yet. They're still exploring the caves. It's an extensive system, and they're proceeding carefully. Rivera paused. There's something else. They found toys, Sophia. Not just 1 or 2, but dozens, some appearing decades old, all arranged in concentric circles in one of the main chambers. Sophia gripped the phone tighter, looking across the table at James, who was watching her intently. I'm coming out there. The FBI won't allow civilians at the site, Rivera warned. Then meet me at James's cabin. Bring whatever photos you can. We need to see what they found. After ending the call, Sophia quickly explained the situation to James. His face paled as she described the cave markings and the collection of toys. All this time, he murmured. All this time I was close but not quite in the right place. They drove separately to his cabin, arriving to find Rivera already waiting, a tablet computer in hand. Without speaking, he showed them photos of the cave system, winding tunnels carved naturally through the red rock, walls adorned with circular symbols, remarkably similar to those Ellie and Lily had drawn. Then came the images that stole Sophia's breath, a large chamber with a natural skylight, illuminating a circular arrangement of toys on the sandy floor, stuffed animals, dolls, action figures, model cars, each placed with apparent purpose along concentric rings. There must be at least 100 items here, James said, zooming in on the image. Going back decades, judging by the styles. Rivera nodded grimly. The FBI has identified toys matching descriptions of items belonging to missing children dating back to at least the 1950s. They're still cataloging everything. And the children? Sophia asked, the question she both needed and feared to ask. Any sign of remains? None, Rivera confirmed. No human remains, no clothing, no DNA evidence so far besides what's on the toys themselves. It's like the children vanished, but deliberately left their toys behind in this specific arrangement. James ran a hand through his hair, his expression haunted. That's impossible. It defies logic. So does everything about this case, Sophia replied, her eyes fixed on the images of the toys. But we need to see it for ourselves. Rivera shook his head firmly. The FBI has the entire cave system locked down. No one gets in without clearance. Then get us clearance, Sophia insisted. James has been researching these disappearances for over a decade. I'm Lily's mother. We have insights the FBI might miss. Rivera looked torn, his loyalty to protocol warring with his dedication to finding answers. I'll see what I can do, but I'm not promising anything. As Rivera left to make calls, Sophia and James pored over the photos again, looking for any clue, any pattern that might explain the inexplicable. Look at this, James said suddenly, pointing to a section of cave wall visible in one of the photos. Barely perceptible in the background was a series of markings different from the circular symbols, what appeared to be a star chart etched into the stone. Stars, Sophia murmured, remembering the forum posts about missing children's fascination with the night sky. The desert angel. James nodded slowly. All these years I've been looking for a who, when I should have been looking for a what. Chapter 4, Constellations of Lost. 3 days passed before Rivera managed to secure them access to the cave system. By then the FBI had established a full operation at the site, with agents, archaeologists, and forensic specialists working around the clock. Agent Chen was clearly displeased by their presence, but had been overruled by her superiors, who recognized the potential value of James's research. You'll be accompanied at all times, she informed them, as they suited up with hard hats and protective gear. Touch nothing, photograph nothing without explicit permission. This is an active investigation site, not a tourist attraction. Sophia barely registered the agent's words, her focus entirely on what lay ahead. After 14 years of wondering, of imagining every possible scenario for Lily's disappearance, she was about to enter a place that might finally provide answers. The mouth of the cave was unremarkable, a narrow opening in a rocky hillside that would be easy to miss if not for the FBI vehicles and equipment now surrounding it. Inside, the temperature dropped immediately, the air cool and dry with an ancient stillness that seemed to absorb sound. FBI technicians had installed lighting throughout the main passages, illuminating the natural beauty of the rock formations. Sophia followed Agent Chen through twisting corridors, James and Rivera close behind. The walls gradually began to display the circular markings they had seen in the photographs, becoming more numerous and elaborate as they ventured deeper. The archaeologists believe these markings date back at least 800 years, Agent Chen explained, her professionalism overcoming her reluctance to have them there. They share characteristics with known indigenous petroglyphs, but the specific pattern and arrangement is unique to this site. After about 15 minutes of walking, they emerged into the large chamber with the skylight. Sophia gasped despite herself, the photographs hadn't captured the scale or the eerie beauty of the space. Sunlight streamed through the natural opening in the ceiling, creating a perfect circle of illumination on the cave floor where the toys were arranged. Even with the FBI's clinical lighting and equipment disrupting the natural atmosphere, there was something undeniably powerful about the place, a sense of purpose and intent that transcended scientific explanation. We've cataloged 137 distinct items so far, Agent Chen said, leading them along a marked path that avoided disturbing the arrangement. 42 have been positively matched to missing children cases dating from 1943 to 2021. We expect that number to increase as we continue cross-referencing with case files. Sophia moved as close to the arrangement as allowed, her eyes scanning desperately for Lily's bear, even though she knew it had been found elsewhere in the desert. The toys are arranged according to a pattern we haven't yet decoded, Agent Chen continued. The working theory is that this was some kind of ritual site, possibly used over generations. Used by whom? James asked, his voice echoing slightly in the chamber. There are no signs of regular human habitation, no remains, no clothing, no food waste. Just toys from missing children spanning 8 decades, all arranged in a perfect geometric pattern that would require significant time and knowledge to create. Agent Chen's expression tightened. We're considering all possibilities, Mr. Holloway. Except the obvious one, he replied, that something beyond our understanding is at work here. Ignoring their increasingly tense exchange, Sophia moved to examine the star chart James had noticed in the photographs. Up close it was even more intricate, a detailed map of constellations etched with remarkable precision into the cave wall. "Has anyone analyzed this?" she asked, interrupting Agent Chen's response to James. "This star chart, has anyone determined what it represents?" "The astronomy consultant says it's accurate, but unusual," Agent Chen replied, seemingly relieved by the change in subject. "It shows constellations as they would have appeared thousands of years ago, not when these caves were supposedly first used by indigenous peoples." Sophia studied the markings, a memory stirring from one of her last conversations with Lily. They had been in the backyard, looking at stars, and Lily had pointed to a cluster Sophia couldn't identify. "That's where we really come from, Mommy," Lily had said with childish certainty. "Not here." There, at the time Sophia had smiled at her daughter's imagination. Now staring at the ancient star chart, she wondered if Lily had been trying to tell her something important. James joined her at the wall, his expression intense as he examined the markings. "These match some of the drawings Ellie made," he said quietly. "Not just the circles, but these specific star patterns." Sophia turned to Agent Chen. "Has the FBI connected these markings to any of the children's drawings or behaviors before they disappeared?" The agent hesitated before responding. "There are some similarities being analyzed." "In other words, yes," Sophia pressed. "Children across the country, across decades, with no connection to each other or to this place, drew the same symbols that appear in this cave and then vanished, only to have their treasured possessions somehow make their way here." Agent Chen's professional mask slipped slightly. "Miss Martinez, I understand your frustration, but we deal in evidence and facts. We can't base an investigation on mystical theories or coincidences." "Then how do you explain this?" Sophia gestured to the elaborate arrangement of toys. "How do you explain toys from missing children in Minnesota, Florida, Maine, all ending up in this specific cave in Arizona, arranged in this specific pattern? We're considering trafficking networks, cult activity, for 80 years, James interrupted. "Operating across the entire country without detection, taking children but carefully preserving and returning their toys to this specific location?" Rivera, who had been quietly observing until now, stepped forward. "Agent Chen, is there any evidence of human trafficking or cult activity connected to these disappearances? Any ransom demands, any witnesses, any recovered victims who might corroborate these theories?" Agent Chen's silence was answer enough. As they continued their tour of the cave system, Sophia felt herself being pulled in conflicting directions. The rational part of her mind resisted the implications of what they were seeing, that some force beyond human understanding might be responsible for Lily's disappearance. Yet another part, the part that had connected with her daughter in ways beyond words, found a strange resonance with the ancient markings and carefully arranged toys. Near the end of their visit, they were shown a smaller chamber that branched off from the main system. Unlike the larger spaces, this one contained a pool of water, still and clear as glass, reflecting the soft light from the FBI's equipment. "This is new," Rivera noted. "It wasn't in the photos you showed us, it was discovered yesterday," Agent Chen explained. Ground-penetrating radar indicated a water source, and the team found this passage. Sophia approached the pool, drawn by its perfect stillness. Unlike the rest of the cave, there were no markings on the walls here, no toys or artifacts, just the water and the silence. As she gazed into the pool, something shifted in her perception. For a brief, disorienting moment, she thought she saw not her own reflection, but Lily's face looking back at her, older, changed, but unmistakably her daughter. Then the image was gone, leaving only the gentle ripple of disturbed water. Sophia stumbled back, gasping. "Did you see that?" The others looked at her with concern. "See what?" Rivera asked, moving to her side. Sophia blinked, trying to recapture what she had glimpsed. "I thought I saw Lily, in the water." Agent Chen's expression was a mixture of sympathy and skepticism. "Miss Martinez, this is an emotionally challenging situation. It's not uncommon to experience. I know what I saw." Sophia interrupted, though uncertainty was already creeping in. Had it been a trick of the light, a manifestation of her desperate hope, or something more? James was looking at her with an intensity that suggested he did not dismiss her experience so easily. The water table here is unusually high for this region, he said, directing his comment to Agent Chen. Has anyone tested the water, analyzed its composition? Standard tests are being conducted, the agent replied. Nothing unusual has been reported so far. As they prepared to leave the cave system, Sophia found herself reluctant to go, feeling that she was abandoning Lily all over again. The brief vision in the pool, real or imagined, had awakened a new certainty within her. Lily was alive, somewhere, somehow. Outside, the harsh desert sun was blinding after the cool darkness of the caves. Agent Chen departed with formal promises to keep them informed of any developments, though her tone suggested she expected them to maintain their distance from the investigation. Once she was out of earshot, Sophia turned to James and Rivera. I need to go back in there, tonight, alone. Rivera stared at her, as if she had lost her mind. That's impossible. The site is under 24-hour FBI surveillance. There must be another entrance, she insisted. The indigenous people who created those markings didn't have the FBI's equipment to find and excavate passages. James nodded slowly. The water chamber. Water has to flow from somewhere, and that pool was too clear to be stagnant. There must be an underground stream, possibly connected to a surface source. Even if there is, what do you hope to accomplish? Rivera asked, his concern evident. Sophia, I understand your need for answers, but breaking into an FBI crime scene is a federal offense. I saw Lily, Sophia said simply. In that pool, call it a hallucination if you want, but I've never felt her presence so strongly as I did in that moment. I need to go back. Rivera looked to James for support, but found none. You believe her? I believe something beyond our conventional understanding is happening here, James replied. And if there's any chance of finding answers about Ellie, about Lily, about any of these children, I'm willing to take risks. Rivera sighed heavily. This is insane. You don't have to help, Sophia told him, though she hoped he would. Despite their complicated history, Rivera had been her most consistent ally in the search for Lily. Like hell I don't, he muttered. If you're determined to do this, you need someone with tactical training and a badge, just in case. As they drove back to Juniper Springs, they formulated a plan. James would use satellite imagery and his extensive knowledge of the area to identify potential water sources that might connect to the underground pool. Rivera would create a diversion to draw some of the FBI personnel away from the site. Sophia would enter the cave system through any alternate entrance they could find. It was reckless, potentially career-ending for Rivera, and possibly illegal, but after 14 years of dead ends and false hopes, conventional approaches had yielded nothing. Sometimes, Sophia reflected, finding the truth required stepping beyond the boundaries of the ordinary world, and she was increasingly convinced that Lily had done exactly that. Chapter 5. Threshold's nightfall in the desert brought an intense sky studded with stars, and a bone-deep chill that cut through Sophia's jacket as she waited beside the dry creek bed. James had identified as the most likely source of the underground stream. Half a mile away, Rivera was executing his part of the plan, a carefully staged anonymous tip about suspicious activity on another part of the property that would hopefully draw away enough FBI personnel to create an opening. According to the topographical maps, this creek only flows during the rainy season, James explained, shining his flashlight along the rocky channel, but there's evidence of water erosion underneath, suggesting a permanent underground flow. Sophia nodded, trying to control her shivering, partly from cold, partly from nerves. The stars above seemed impossibly bright, the constellations from the cave star chart, visible in living form across the vast desert sky. There, James said suddenly, pointing to a depression in the creek bed, partially hidden by scrubby vegetation. The erosion pattern changes here. This could be where the surface water drains into the underground system. They approached cautiously, aware of the need for silence. The depression, on closer inspection, revealed a narrow opening, not large enough for an adult to walk through upright, but sufficient to crawl through if necessary. This has to be it, James whispered. The question is whether it connects to the cave system, and if so, how difficult the journey will be. Sophia checked her equipment one last time: a powerful headlamp, a waterproof backpack containing dry clothes, a first aid kit, water, energy bars, and a satellite phone programmed with Rivera's number in case of emergency. Around her neck was a locket containing Lily's photo, a talisman of sorts for what lay ahead. I should go with you, James said, though they had already decided against this. One person had a better chance of moving undetected, and if they were caught, Sophia could potentially face lesser consequences as a grieving mother than James would as a suspected kidnapper. "We stick to the plan," she replied firmly. "If I'm not back by dawn, call Rivera. If you haven't heard from either of us by noon, call the number I gave you, my lawyer. She has instructions." James nodded reluctantly. "Be careful. The water will be cold, probably flowing with some force. Don't fight it if you get caught in a current, just try to keep your head above water, and go with it." With a final nod of determination, Sophia turned on her headlamp, and began to lower herself into the opening. The space was tight, but navigable, the rough stone cold and damp against her hands. About 6 feet down, her feet touched water, shockingly cold, and moving with a gentle but persistent current. "Good luck," James called softly from above. Sophia took a deep breath, and committed herself fully to the underground stream, allowing the current to pull her away from the entrance, and into the darkness beyond. The water was only about 3 feet deep here, allowing her to crouch walk with the flow, rather than swim. Her headlamp illuminated a low tunnel of smooth-worn rock, testament to centuries of water's patient erosion. For nearly 20 minutes, she followed the underground stream, sometimes walking in shallow sections, sometimes swimming through deeper pools. The tunnel occasionally narrowed to the point where she had to turn sideways to pass, her backpack scraping against the rock. Other times it opened into small chambers, where multiple water channels converged. The cold was intense, seeping through her wetsuit and into her bones. But Sophia pushed forward, driven by the memory of Lily's face in the cave pool and the conviction that answers awaited her in this ancient place. Finally, the tunnel began to widen, and the ceiling rose. Ahead she could see the water flowing into a larger space, a chamber that glowed with a soft, diffuse light unlike her harsh headlamp. Approaching cautiously, Sophia found herself emerging into the very pool she had seen earlier that day, now illuminated only by the dim emergency lighting the FBI had left in place overnight. She pulled herself out of the water onto the smooth rock edge, shivering violently as the air hit her wet suit. Working quickly and quietly, she changed into the dry clothes from her waterproof backpack, keeping her movements minimal to avoid detection by any FBI personnel who might be stationed nearby. Once warmer and drier, Sophia peered carefully out of the water chamber into the main cave system. The emergency lighting created pools of dim illumination amidst deep shadows, giving the ancient space an ethereal quality. She could hear distant voices, FBI agents on the night shift, no doubt, but they seemed to be concentrated near the main entrance, just as they had hoped. Rivera's diversion must have worked. Moving with deliberate care, Sophia made her way toward the large chamber with the arranged toys. Unlike during their guided tour, the space now was bathed primarily in natural light from the full moon shining through the skylight, casting the toy arrangement in silver and shadow. In this light, Sophia noticed something that hadn't been apparent earlier. When the moonlight hit the toys at a particular angle, their shadows formed a pattern on the cave floor that perfectly matched the star chart on the wall. Not a random arrangement at all, but a complex three-dimensional representation of the night sky. Sophia's heart raced as she approached, careful to follow the path the FBI had marked to avoid disturbing the arrangement. What had seemed clinical and archaeological in the harsh light of day now felt alive with meaning and purpose in the silver moonlight. She knelt at the edge of the pattern, overwhelmed by the sensation that she was in the presence of something both ancient and immediate, both alien and intimately familiar. The circular arrangement of toys, each one a beloved object, a connection to a vanished child, created a pattern that spoke of intentionality, of communication. "Lily," she whispered, her voice barely audible even to herself. "I'm here, I'm listening." The silence of the cave seemed to deepen, taking on a quality that was almost tangible. The moonlight shifted slightly as clouds passed overhead, causing the shadows cast by the toys to move in a slow dance across the cave floor. Then, in a moment that would forever divide Sophia's life into before and after, the shadows began to move independently of the moonlight, swirling, merging, forming new patterns that corresponded to neither the toys nor any natural light source. Sophia remained perfectly still, her breath caught in her throat, as the shadow patterns coalesced into a recognizable shape, a doorway, a threshold formed of darkness against the light-colored stone of the cave floor. And through this doorway of shadows, she could see or sense movement, light, presence. Instinctively, Sophia reached out toward the shadow doorway, her fingers passing through what appeared solid to her eyes. The sensation was indescribable, like plunging her hand into water, electricity, and pure emotion simultaneously. "Lily," she called, louder now, no longer concerned about FBI detection. "Lily, are you there?" The shadow doorway pulsed with light, and from within it emerged not her daughter, but a figure both familiar and impossible, formed of light and shadow, with features that shifted between human and something else entirely. It was as if someone had attempted to create a human form using only stars and the spaces between them. Sophia wanted to run, but found herself transfixed, unable to move as the figure approached. When it spoke, the sound was not words but a resonance that Sophia felt rather than heard, resolving into meaning within her mind. "You seek your child," the figure communicated. "As do many, as did those who came before. Who are you?" Sophia managed, her voice small in the ancient space. "What are you?" The figure's form shifted, stars reconfiguring into a pattern reminiscent of the circular markings on the cave walls. "We are the Watchers, the guides, the ones who show the way home." "Home? What home? Where is Lily?" "Home," the figure repeated, the concept expanding in Sophia's mind to encompass something far beyond a physical location, a state of being, a plane of existence, a return to some primal origin point, where she belongs, where all belong, eventually. "You took her," Sophia said, anger flaring through her fear. "You took her from me." The figure's form pulsed, contracting and expanding. "We guide, we do not take." The children hear the call of home, some hear it earlier than others. Somehow, Sophia understood that this being, this watcher was not using metaphor. The children who had disappeared over decades had somehow heard a literal call, one that originated from someplace beyond ordinary human perception. "They're alive?" she asked, hope and terror warring within her. "Lily, all of them, they're alive?" "Alive," the watcher confirmed, though Sophia sensed that its understanding of the concept differed from hers. "Changed, becoming. The journey home is a transformation." "I want to see her," Sophia demanded, finding courage in maternal determination. "I need to know she's safe, that she's happy." The figure seemed to consider this request, its starry form shifting in contemplation. "The threshold is not for you, not yet. Your time will come, as it comes for all." "Then let me see her," Sophia pleaded. "Just once, please." The shadow doorway expanded, darkness folding outward like the petals of a night-blooming flower. Within it stars swirled and coalesced, forming a scene that shimmered between reality and dream, a landscape of impossible beauty, where light had texture and sound had color. And moving through this landscape, a tall, poised figure with Lily's eyes and smile, but changed, glowing with an inner radiance, that was both her daughter and something more. "Lily," Sophia whispered, reaching toward the vision. The figure in the doorway turned, seeming to look directly at Sophia across the dimensional gulf. Recognition flashed in those familiar yet transformed eyes, along with something like compassion and love. "Mom?" The voice was Lily's, yet layered with harmonics no human throat could produce. "You found me. I never stopped looking," Sophia said, tears streaming freely now. "Are you okay? Are you happy?" Lily's transformed face reflected emotions that had no names in human language. "I'm more than okay, Mom. I'm home. I'm where I belong. We all are. Come back with me," Sophia pleaded, though even as she spoke the words, she sensed their impossibility. Lily's form shimmered, stars realigning. "I can't. The journey only goes one way, until your time comes." She paused, her expression softening. "But I'm not gone, Mom. I'm just elsewhere, living differently, and when your time comes, you'll understand." Before Sophia could respond, the vision began to fade, the shadow doorway contracting. "Wait," she cried, lunging forward. But the watcher's form intercepted her, stopping her progress without physical contact. "Her journey is not complete, nor is yours. Each path must be walked in its time." "Will I see her again?" Sophia asked, desperation edging her voice. "When the stars align," the watcher communicated, its form already beginning to dissolve. "When your journey leads to the threshold." "I don't understand," Sophia said, reaching out as the watcher and the shadow doorway faded. "Please, I need more answers." But the presence was receding, the moonlight returning to normal, the shadows of the toys once again just shadows. In moments Sophia was alone in the cave, kneeling on the stone floor, hands outstretched toward empty air. She might have remained there indefinitely, lost in the aftermath of what she had experienced, if not for the sudden unmistakable sound of voices and footsteps approaching from the main entrance. The FBI agents, perhaps alerted by her cries. Moving on instinct, Sophia scrambled back toward the water chamber, slipping into the pool just as flashlight beams cut through the main chamber behind her. The cold shocked her system anew, but she pushed forward, allowing the current to carry her back through the underground stream, away from discovery and toward the desert night above. Chapter 6. Fragments of truth. Dawn was breaking as Sophia emerged from the underground stream, exhausted and chilled to the bone. Despite her wetsuit, James was waiting anxiously, pacing the dry creek bed with Rivera beside him, both men showing visible relief as she appeared. "Thank God," Rivera breathed, rushing forward to help her out of the opening. "We were about to call in emergency services. What happened in there? Did you find anything?" Sophia couldn't answer immediately, her mind still processing the impossible encounter in the cave. How could she explain what she had seen, what she had learned, when she barely understood it herself? "Let's get her warm first," James suggested, wrapping an emergency blanket around her shoulders. "There's coffee in the thermos." They led her to James's truck, parked a safe distance away from the FBI perimeter. Inside the cab, with the heater running and hot coffee warming her hands, Sophia finally found her voice. "Lily's alive," she said simply. "They all are, but they're somewhere else. Somewhere we can't reach, at least not yet." Rivera and James exchanged concerned glances. "Sophia," Rivera began gently, "you were hypothermic, in an incredibly stressful situation. The mind can play tricks. It wasn't a hallucination," she interrupted firmly. "I know what I saw, what I experienced. There was a being, a presence in the cave. It showed me Lily. She spoke to me." She described the encounter as best she could, though human language proved inadequate for much of what she had witnessed. The shadowed doorway, the starry figure of the watcher, the glimpse of Lily transformed, it all sounded like fantasy or delusion when translated into words. "The toys," she concluded. "They're markers, reminders. The children leave them behind deliberately, as connections to this world, this reality, as they transition to wherever they go." Rivera's expression reflected skepticism tinged with sympathy, but James was nodding slowly, his face alight with a tentative hope. "It makes a terrible kind of sense," he said. "The dreams, the drawings, the star patterns, they were receiving some kind of call or signal, one that only certain children can hear, and they responded." "This is insane," Rivera muttered, running a hand over his face. "You're talking about interdimensional beings abducting children across decades." "Not abducting," Sophia corrected. "Guiding, there's a difference. The Watcher said the children hear the call on their own, some earlier than others." "And you believe this entity?" Rivera demanded. Sophia met his gaze steadily. "I believe I saw my daughter. I believe she's alive, even if not in the way we understand life, and I believe she's where she's meant to be." The implications of her words hung heavy in the truck's cabin. If what Sophia had experienced was real, if Lily and the other missing children had somehow transcended ordinary reality, what did that mean for the FBI investigation, for the parents still searching, for the conventional understanding of the world itself? "What now?" James asked, eventually. "Do we tell Agent Chen that the missing children have been guided to another dimension by star beings, will be dismissed as delusional, possibly institutionalized?" "We need proof," Rivera said, always the pragmatic investigator. "Something tangible, something that can't be explained away as hallucination or coincidence." Sophia thought back to the cave, to the precise arrangement of toys that created the star pattern when moonlight hit them at the right angle. "The shadow pattern," she said. "If we could document it, show how the toys create that specific constellation pattern when the moonlight hits them, that wouldn't prove interdimensional beings," Rivera pointed out. "Just that someone arranged the toys deliberately to create an astronomical pattern." "What about this?" James suggested. "We compile all the evidence, the children's drawings, the ancient cave markings, the star charts, the toy arrangement, and present it as a pattern, a phenomenon we don't fully understand, but that deserves serious scientific investigation. Sophia nodded slowly. We don't have to convince anyone of our interpretation. We just have to show them that something beyond conventional explanation is happening. As they drove back to Juniper Springs, Sophia felt a curious mixture of emotions, grief and joy, loss and discovery, closure and new beginning. She had not brought Lily home, would never bring her home in the conventional sense. Yet she had found her, confirmed she was alive and well in some form, in some realm beyond ordinary perception. Was that enough? Could a mother's heart ever truly accept such an incomprehensible separation? The answer came to her as they passed through the desert landscape, now golden in the morning light. Yes, it was enough, not perfect, not what she had hoped for all these years, but enough to heal the ragged wound of uncertainty that had defined her existence since Lily vanished. Her daughter was alive, was whole, was where she was meant to be. And someday, when the stars aligned, when Sophia's own journey led her to the threshold, they would be reunited. In the coming days, they compiled their evidence meticulously, creating a comprehensive document that presented the factual, observable patterns without overreaching into unprovable interpretations. The children's drawings, the ancient cave markings, the astronomical alignments, the statistical impossibility of so many toys from missing children appearing in one remote location, these were objective realities that demanded explanation. Agent Chen received their report with professional skepticism, but could not entirely dismiss the patterns they had identified. The FBI investigation continued, though in a new direction, one that included astronomers, anthropologists, and historians alongside conventional law enforcement. For Sophia, however, the official investigation had become secondary. Her personal quest had reached its conclusion, not with the homecoming she had imagined, but with a different kind of resolution, an understanding that transcended the limitations of conventional reality. 2 weeks after her underground journey, as she prepared to return to San Diego, Sophia visited Reflection Point one last time. The FBI had scaled back their presence at the cave site, having exhausted most conventional investigative approaches. She stood alone in the desert, the wind playing with her hair, gazing up at the vast sky that separated, and perhaps somehow connected, her world and Lily's. "I love you," she whispered to the stars, too distant to see in the daylight, but present nonetheless. "Be happy, wherever you are, however you are." As if in response, a sudden gust of wind swept across the desert, carrying with it a swirl of sand that danced around her before settling into a perfect circle at her feet. Within the circle, the wind had uncovered something partially buried, a small weathered bracelet that Sophia recognized instantly as one she had made for Lily shortly before her disappearance. Kneeling, Sophia gently lifted the bracelet from the sand. Unlike the teddy bear, which had been Lily's connection to her old life, this seemed more like a message, a deliberate communication across the gulf that separated them. As she held it, a sense of peace settled over her, not the absence of grief, but its transformation into something new: acceptance, understanding, and the knowledge that love transcends even the boundaries between worlds. Epilogue. Distant light. 5 years later, Sophia stood before an audience in a university auditorium, presenting her research on what had come to be known as the desert star phenomenon. Behind her, a projection showed the star chart from the cave alongside children's drawings from dozens of missing persons cases spanning nearly a century. "What we're seeing," she concluded, "is a pattern that challenges our conventional understanding of reality, consciousness, and perhaps even human evolution. The children who have vanished in connection with these symbols appear to be responding to something beyond our current scientific framework, something that indigenous cultures may have recognized centuries ago, as evidenced by the cave markings." She had become a respected, if controversial, researcher in the field of consciousness studies, working alongside James to document and analyze cases that fit the pattern they had identified. Rivera had retired from the police force to join their small research institute, bringing his investigative skills and grounding perspective to their work. After the lecture, as attendees filed out of the auditorium, a young woman approached the podium. She appeared to be in her early 20s, with striking features and an unusual intensity in her eyes. "Dr. Martinez," the woman said, "my name is Emma. Emma Larson." Sophia froze, the name immediately registering. Emma Larson, but that's impossible. Emma Larson disappeared in 1999. She would be 32, the young woman finished. I know, and yet here I am, apparently 23. I can't explain it either, except to say that time moves differently, elsewhere. Sophia stared at the woman, disbelief warring with hope. You're claiming to be one of the missing children, to have returned. Emma nodded. I'm the first, I think, but not the last. The Watchers said it was time for some of us to return, to help prepare the way. She smiled, a hint of something otherworldly in her expression. Lily says hello by the way. She's not ready to return yet, but she wanted you to know she's watching over you. Sophia's heart seemed to stop, then restart at a different rhythm. You know Lily, my Lily. We all know each other, where we've been. Emma replied simply. We're family, in a way your world doesn't quite understand yet, but it will. That's why I'm here, why some of us are coming back. As they talked into the night, Sophia's understanding of reality expanded once again. Emma's return, if her extraordinary claim was true, suggested that the threshold between worlds was permeable in both directions, that the separation was not permanent, but cyclical, governed by cosmic patterns beyond human control, but not beyond human comprehension. And if Emma had returned, carrying messages and memories from beyond, perhaps someday Lily might too, or perhaps Sophia's own journey would eventually lead her to that same threshold, that same transformation. Either way, the stars that had taken her daughter might someday return her, changed but not lost, distant but not gone. Until then, Sophia would continue her work, building bridges of understanding between worlds, guided by the distant light of stars, and the undying love of a mother for her child. If you've made it to the end of this extraordinary journey, please consider subscribing to the Lost and the Found channel, where stories like Sophia's remind us that loss is not always what it seems, and that the connections between us transcend the boundaries of time, space, and even reality itself. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts on this story, and join our community of searchers, who believe that sometimes, being lost is just the first step to being found in unexpected ways. In the quiet of her study, years later, Sophia often finds herself gazing at the stars, wondering which one now shelters her daughter's transformed spirit. The bracelet hangs from a silver chain around her neck, a tangible reminder of an intangible connection that neither death nor dimensional boundaries could sever. And sometimes, in the space between wakefulness and dreams, she hears Lily's voice, not as the child she lost, but as the cosmic being she became, whispering across the void, "I'm waiting for you, Mom. When the time is right, when the stars align." Until then, Sophia continues her work, mapping the mysterious intersections between worlds, guiding other searching parents toward a different kind of peace. Not the peace of reunion, perhaps, but the peace of knowing that what appears to be an ending may simply be a transformation, a journey toward a home more ancient and true than any we've known on Earth. For in the desert's silence, in the language of stars, in the circular patterns etched by children's hands across continents and decades, there exists a truth too vast for ordinary understanding. We are never truly lost, and in the fullness of time, all thresholds will be crossed, all separations healed, all journeys completed. The circle in the end remains unbroken.